We come to Prime Minister's questions. Cat Smith.
Question number 1, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. An attack on Britain's Jewish community is an attack on all of us. And, Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to say that London ambulances have now replaced the Hatzola ambulances and that the NHS will pay for the permanent replacements. We're also accelerating our social cohesion plan to strengthen our British values of tolerance, decency and respect. Mr. Speaker, we're also strengthening our communities by extending Pride in Place, announcing the locations of 7 new towns and delivering over 300 new school-based nurseries. This is investment in our high streets, more homes and action to support working people with the cost of living. Mr. Speaker, today we will also celebrate the installation of the new Archbishop of Canterbury. It's a key role in our national life, and I wish her every success. This morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to thank the Prime Minister for the £47 million that this government has given to Lancashire County Council to repair potholes. However, my constituents still feel like they need a moon buggy to navigate the streets of Lancashire. So would you agree with me that the reform councillors at Lancashire County Council are clearly wired to the moon if they think they're making effective use of this £47 million? Prime
Minister.
Well, can I extend my sympathy to residents in Lancashire who have been utterly failed by their reform county council. And, Mr. Speaker, it's the same picture across the country. In Kent, Reform are cutting social care. In Worcestershire, they're hiking council tax by 9%, despite promising lower taxes. In Staffordshire, the scandals and infighting have been so bad, the Reform are on their 4th leader in 11 months. It's a warning to the whole country. Reform have nothing to offer but chaos, grievance and division.
Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Beno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I asked the Prime Minister 6 questions last week and he didn't answer a single one. He has a duty to this House, Mr. Speaker, to answer the question. Let's see if he can do better this week. I'll start with a simple one. Will the Prime Minister approve the licences for Rosebank and Jackdaw gas fields in the North Sea?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, under statute, that is a matter for the Secretary of State, as she knows, because it's the same arrangements that were in place under the last government. Licences were granted, they were then struck down because of the defects in the process of the last government. But, Mr. Speaker, oil and gas is coming out of the North Sea 24/7. It will be part of the energy mix for many years to come. We fully support all existing oil and gas fields throughout their lifespan, and in November we made changes to extend to allow neighbouring fields to be exploited. But we need to take control of our energy prices. The only way to do that is through renewables. The party opposite used to make that argument. One of their senior figures in 22 said this: it's investment in nuclear and renewables that will reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and keep our consumer costs down. Who was that senior figure? The Leader of the Opposition.
This is not the day to be thrown out with a 2-week break coming. Kemi Beno.
Mr. Speaker, we can have renewables and oil and gas. He says it's a matter for the Secretary of State. He says it's a matter for the Secretary of State. I thought he was the Prime Minister, and he loves to hide behind legal process every single time. I wonder, Mr. Speaker, what a Director of Public... What? Have I...
Order. Mr. Yeltsin, you don't want to test my patience, I'm sure. Come back.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister loves to hide behind legal process. I wonder what a Director of Public Prosecutions would make of the defence. Sorry, I can't produce my WhatsApps. My phone's been stolen. The Jackdaw gas field could be up and running before winter. All that gas would be used here in the UK to heat 1.6 million homes. That is enough to power Norfolk, Suffolk and Essex put together. So will the Prime Minister approve the licences, or is the Energy Secretary running the government?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, legislation has been passed. It's absolutely clear that the quasi-judicial duty under legislation rests with the Secretary of State. I really think if she's going to put this challenge to me, she needs to read the legislation. That is the legislation that they applied for 14 years. It's exactly the legislation that they used to put the licences in place, which were then struck down because the process was defective. But, Mr. Speaker, let's be clear, when Russia invaded Ukraine, energy prices doubled. The 12-day war, oil prices hit £100 a barrel. In the last 4 weeks, because we're on the fossil fuel roller coaster, everybody has been held to ransom. The only way forward is to go further and faster on renewables. And the leader... Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition's approach is to outsource our foreign policy and let the US decide whether we go to war, to outsource our energy policy to Russia and Iran and let them set the price of energy. I will never do that because it's not in the British national interest.
Mr. Speaker, he is hiding behind so many people. He is the Prime Minister. He can make this decision today. He can. He can. He is so weak, he's the first person to be pushed around by the Energy Secretary. Let me remind him, Mr. Speaker, let me remind him who is on my side. The unions, yes, GMB, they're on my side. Tony Blair. Mr. Speaker, Renewable UK, the very people that he's talking about, they are saying drill in the North Sea. Centrica, Octopus Energy, even Labour MPs. Let me quote the Labour member for Pembrokeshire who says, offshoring our carbon emissions might give a sense of moral superiority, but it is simply impoverishing our communities. We agree. So why does the Prime Minister think he knows better than everyone else?
I'm going to have one more go. The legislation, the statute, the law prescribes the decision maker. They know that. They should be embarrassed that she doesn't even... She's attacking me without having read the legislation. The legislation sets out who the decision maker is. It's the Secretary of State. It is not the Prime Minister. It has to be the Secretary of State, and it's a quasi-judicial process, exactly the process that they ran for many years. And, Mr. Speaker, oil and gas is part of the mix for many years to come, but we do need to get onto renewables. But, Mr. Speaker, we're discussing this because of the war. We need to de-escalate. And that is, yes, we are. That is why I stuck to my principles not to join the war and to act in collective self-defence. I appreciate the Leader of the Opposition doesn't get that. She wanted to jump into the war without regard to the consequences and then do a mother of all U-turns. And now she's stranded without a thought-through position. And, Mr. Speaker, when she was asked at the weekend whether she approved of the war, she said, that's a difficult one. It certainly is if you've got absolutely no judgment.
Mr. Speaker, I'm going to let the Prime Minister in on a secret. He's the Prime Minister. He can change the legislation. Hiding behind the Energy Secretary is pathetic. Mr. Speaker, under his Labour government, we buy half the gas we use from Norway. Last year, Norway's Labour government drilled 49 wells in the North Sea. That's what Norway's Labour government did. How many did Britain drill? 0. For the first time since 1964, under his government, Britain drilled no wells. Why is energy security the right policy for Labour in Norway, but the wrong policy for Labour in Britain?
Mr. Speaker, so now our attack is if you changed and passed some different law, you could take the decision, which she's challenging me today for not taking. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, all that would do is to slow the process down. Oil and gas is coming out every day. There's a mix of that and renewables. But it's really important, Mr. Speaker, the most important thing to get energy security is to ensure we de-escalate this war. I know where I stand on this. We are not joining the war. She wanted to join the war. She didn't think through the consequences, and now she doesn't know where she stands on the most important issue facing this country at this time.
Mr. Speaker, the Norwegian Prime Minister is doing what is right for his country. If only our Prime Minister would do the same. Stopping all new drilling in the North Sea was a reckless promise when he made it before the election. In the middle of a global energy crisis, it is catastrophic. Experts are predicting a £300 rise in bills in July. Approving new licenses would show he was serious about cutting bills. Why won't he do it?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, because of the action that we've taken, bills are coming down by up to £100 household bills next month. Then they will be capped for 3 months. That's what we're doing to protect households across the country. And who voted against it? The Tories and Reform, because they just don't get the impact on working people that we will protect.
Okay, Bernard.
Mr. Speaker, he says bills are coming down. They are higher than they were when he came into office. And he's talking about, what they're doing to help with energy bills. Families and businesses will suffer from the spike in energy costs because of his decisions. He could abolish the green taxes on their bills. He could stop the fuel duty rise. We could drill our own gas in the North Sea. What's he doing? He is planning another giveaway to people on welfare. Yet again, he's taking money from those who do work to give to those who don't. First, we had the budget for Benefit Street. Now it's the bailout for Benefit Street. Doesn't this just prove that they've given up being the Labour Party and they're now just the welfare party?
Mr. Speaker, the spike... they're the ones that double spend on welfare, Mr. Speaker. They're the ones with a broken system. And when we tried to mend it, what did they do? They voted against it.
Order. Mr. Dewhurst, you're tempting my patience. Thank you, Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, she talks about the spike in energy prices. That's because of the war, which I say we shouldn't join, and she says we should join without following through on the consequences. And time again, she gets the big calls absolutely wrong. She wanted to drag us into the war. She got that wrong. She opposed taking control of energy security, and she got that wrong. She opposed our decision to cut energy bills, and she got that wrong. And she seriously thinks that'll make her relevant, and she's got that wrong.
Debbie Abrams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I thank the Prime Minister for the new funding for 3 new primary school nurseries in Oldham? But can I ask him specifically about Monday's liaison committee, when he agreed that Israeli settlements in the West Bank are unlawful and that their expansion threatens the viability of a Palestinian state? Will he confirm, as he said he would, that any potential bidder for EU1 contracts from the UK knows that this is unlawful? And will he set out exactly what will happen as a consequence?
Mr. Speaker, let me do that. The Israeli settlements, including the E1 settlement, are a flagrant breach of international law and threaten the viability of the two-state solution. That's why, alongside international partners, we've sanctioned those responsible and their supporters who incite violence. We've consistently urged the Israeli government to act to stop these incidents. We also recommend that settlement products are labelled so that consumers are informed, and will continue to take the necessary action to defend Palestinians and protect the two-state solution.
Leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I associate myself with the Prime Minister's remarks about Monday's despicable attacks on the Jewish community? Anti-Semitism has no place in our society, and given the potential links with the IRGC, I hope the government will move faster to prescribe them as terrorists. And Mr. Speaker, as a former Secretary of State for Energy who granted licences for oil and gas exploration, can I make a judgment on this argument? The Prime Minister is actually right, and the lead opposition is wrong. Mr. Speaker, the law is clear and I believe in the rule of law. Mr. Speaker, just before President Trump posted about his supposed negotiations with Iran on Monday, traders made hundreds of millions of dollars of extra bets on oil futures. This looks like Donald Trump giving his mates insider information so they can make themselves richer, while his illegal war in Iran makes everyone else poorer. This looks like corruption of the very worst kind. Does the Prime Minister share my fear that Trump is making his war decisions based on what enriches himself and his friends rather than what makes peace in the Middle East?
Prime Minister.
Well, can I thank him for his verdict? At least he's read the law that she obviously hasn't read. But, Mr. Speaker, in relation to the traders, we've seen the activity there. What I can say is that all of my decisions are based in the best interests of our country, and that's why I've decided that we will not get dragged into the war, unlike the Leader of the Opposition, and I've decided we will act in collective self-defence of ourselves and our allies. And so I comment on my actions, and they're the principles behind my actions.
Red David.
Mr. Speaker, if Trump's war pushes up energy bills by £500, the Chancellor's very narrow plan simply won't cut it. And while I don't fall for the crocodile tears of the leader of the Conservatives, who cheered on this illegal war without a thought for the impact on people's energy bills, and the government is right to reject repeating Liz Truss's blanket cheque approach. But, Mr. Speaker, the government can't ignore the millions of families who don't get benefits, who already face a cost of living crisis. So can the Prime Minister at least guarantee to all those families and pensioners that he won't let their energy bills go up by £500 this year?
Let me say my verdict. He's right about the Leader of the Opposition wanting to join the war, and she's wrong about that. At least he's read the legislation that I'm being challenged on. It does help. It does help. At least he's right. It was the leader of their party that said, let's all go to war without thinking through the consequences. We're now discussing the consequences. Mr. Speaker, in relation to the support, we've made clear the principles, the approach we'll take. We'll keep this under careful review. Energy bills for households are frozen until are capped until the end of June. It's really important I make clear that that's whatever happens in the conflict, because I know the public are concerned about that. We will then put in place appropriate support and look at how we put the principles behind it.
Durham Paffey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I associate myself with the Prime Minister's remarks on the terrible Golders Green attacks? Mr. Speaker, rebuilding trust and integrity in our democracy matters deeply to my constituents in Southampton. Shamefully, it doesn't matter at all to some, particularly the senior Reform UK politician who has been convicted of taking bribes from Russia. Does the Prime Minister agree that there has never been a more urgent need to defend our country from hostile forces who would try to undermine our democracy? And will he set out what concrete steps he is taking to crack down on foreign interference in British politics?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank my honourable friend? He makes a powerful point. Mr. Speaker, the Communities Secretary will make a statement later on the Rycroft review, which sets out the stark threats posed by illicit finance. I can tell the House we will act decisively to protect our democracy. That will include a moratorium on all political donations made through cryptocurrencies. I hope that will be welcomed across the House. There is only one party leader has shown he will say anything, no matter how divisive, if he's paid to do so.
Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Smash the gangs. That is what the Prime Minister promised us. Trust me, I will stop the boats from coming. But 70,000 later, and 1,000 in the last week, and too many young men that pose a threat to national security, is it not time to admit Smash the Gangs has been a total abject failure, along, frankly, with most of his other policies? Isn't it now time, he told us, as summer approaches, what is Plan B?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this is from the man and the party that voted against giving law enforcement counter-terrorism style powers to tackle it. So he wants the grievance, he doesn't want it sorted. And he has absolutely no judgment. He again said, let's join the war, let's all go to war. I want to make it perfectly clear he wants the war. A week later, screeching U-turn, we don't want to go to war. And he says, trust his judgment. Mr. Speaker, it's hard to take anything he says seriously. He promised lower tax, and now reform councils are hiking council tax by 9%. In Worcestershire, this is what he said about Worcestershire. He said, we took control of a virtually bankrupt council. I wish we hadn't bothered. He asked for people's votes, and then he abandons them. Reform don't want to solve problems, they only want to exploit them. I am thankful for the opportunity to change this country for the better. He says he wishes he hadn't bothered winning councils, because they're an absolute disgrace.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I thank the Prime Minister for the £35 million of funding announced this week to transform Crucible Theatre and keep the world...
Order! I want to hear this member's question, especially those who are interested in snooker. Dr. Marie Trimble.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I thank the Prime Minister for the £35 million of funding announced this week to transform the Crucible Theatre and keep the World Snooker Championship at the heart of Sheffield? I want my constituents to be able to enjoy this fantastic tournament day and night, travelling by tram train from Stocksbridge to Sheffield via Outerbridge, Warncliffe Side and Deepcar. I'm grateful for our South Yorkshire Mayor, Oliver Coppard, for kick-starting these plans. Will the Prime Minister work with me and the South Yorkshire Mayor to ensure we get spades in the ground for a tram train extension to Stocksbridge as soon as possible so my constituents can enjoy the snooker?
Mr. Speaker, I see Reform have walked out. They obviously realise they're absolutely snookered. Mr. Speaker.
No, I don't think so.
Sheffield and the Crucible Theatre are the beating heart of snooker, and I am delighted that we'll host the World Snooker Championships for many years to come, because this is what Labour stands for, investing in things that make us proud of the places that we live. Can I reassure my honourable friend we're working closely with South Yorkshire Combined Authority on better transport links, providing over £1.4 billion to spend on their priorities, which could include a new tram fleet, more modern stops or deliver extensions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week I met my constituents Rob and Lizzie at the King's Arms Hotel in Melrose, which we run as part of a family business of 10 hotels across Scotland. They employ over 250 people, but their national insurance bill is going up by £288,000 because of Labour's tax on jobs. We need to get Britain working again, but this government's policies are doing the opposite. Does the Prime Minister understand the damage that he is doing to our economy, and how does he expect businesses like this to survive?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the steps we've taken have been to repair the damage that was done by the previous government. And we took those steps, and the spring statement showed the results of those steps. Inflation coming down, interest rates coming down, and the economy stabilised. I know they don't understand that because they blew up the economy in the first place.
Tony Antoniazzi.
Mr. Speaker, my constituents Tony and Rebecca Wadley received insulation under the Tory government's Eco4 scheme, but the work left their home with black mould, leaks, damp and even a solar fire, damage now requiring £100,000 worth of repairs. Rebecca is suicidal, Tony has had pneumonia, their asthmatic son cannot live at home. And like many others, they are required under the rules to use the same contractor responsible for the faulty work, only up to £20,000. Now, will the Prime Minister commit to overhauling this broken system so that my constituents and many others can receive fully funded repairs carried out by a competent builder?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, an independent audit of the previous government's failed insulation schemes show unacceptable levels of failings. We've acted to make sure poor quality installations are fixed. It is important that those responsible are held to account for the cost of remediating the issues. I do recognise that there are some complicated cases. I'll make sure a Minister looks at her constituent's case and that urgent action is taken.
Harriet Baldwin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, the Prime Minister says that he's concerned about the cost of living. So can he explain why he allowed his government minister to give permission to reform-led Worcestershire County Council to inflict that 9% council tax hike on my constituents?
Mr. Speaker, Reform have to take responsibility for their decisions, and they've moved out.
John Trickett.
Mr. Speaker, two members of the same family in my constituency recently suffered serious health problems. The NHS was there for them, as you would expect, and they're both hopefully now on the road to recovery. But the recently departed honourable member had a different idea, that we should have an insurance-based health policy, an American-style policy, and that family, whose cost would have been $1.2 million, would have been crucified financially by what happened. So will the Prime Minister take the opportunity to say that our principles on the NHS are that it's universal for everybody, that wealth does not give you privileged access, and that this is a public service, not a private service?
Prime Minister.
I'm deeply sorry to hear about the case that he raises. We are the party of the NHS, and we will always fight to ensure that it remains free at the point of use. Mr. Speaker, we inherited an NHS on its knees, but we are seeing progress. Waiting lists are down, patient satisfaction is improving. We got the best ambulance response times for half a decade. There's much more to do, but we're delivering the investment that's needed, and it was opposed by who? The Tories and the now departed Reform.
John Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituent Susan suffered horrific, unimaginable, lifelong injury from a pelvic mesh implant. She lost her business, her marriage, her health, and lives in constant 24-hour pain. I'd like to congratulate the new Minister for Public Health on her appointment after her tireless campaigning on this issue, which has clearly been recognised. But more than 2 years after the Hughes report set out clear recommendations for redress, thousands of women like Susan are still waiting for a government response. So can the Prime Minister tell Susan and the thousands of other women like her how much longer they will have to wait?
Minister.
Can I thank her for raising Susan's case, and it's really important that she does so, and I'm deeply sorry for the enduring harm that patients have suffered. Ministers have met campaigners and the Patient Safety Commissioner to discuss their recommendations, and I can assure her we will provide a full response to the Hughes report recommendations at the earliest opportunity. And I'm happy for ministers to update her on the actions we've taken and to discuss the particular case that she's raised with me.
Dr. Alison-Gardner.
Mr. Speaker, I recently met with Graham and Malcolm, who bravely shared their lived experience of addiction to monkey dust, a synthetic cathinone causing significant problems in Stoke-on-Trent. They shared their challenges to recovery caused by a lack of joined-up working between local services, including mental health and housing. I am now setting up a task force to address these gaps and to learn from excellent local projects such as Sphere. Will the Prime Minister meet with me to discuss how, together, as a country, we can tackle this pernicious drug?
Can I thank her for her work? She's right to highlight the growing threat posed by dangerous synthetic drugs. Alongside deploying new detection methods at the border to seize drugs, we're investing in better mental health support and drug addiction treatment with almost 26 million for Stoke-on-Trent. I'll ask the Health Minister to discuss her important work with her.
Peter Fortune.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And as we move towards the Easter recess, I'm sure the Prime Minister's thoughts are turning to the miracle of resurrection. But constituents in Bromley and Biggin Hill have asked me to resurrect something, and that is cash in shops. 1 in 7 shops in the last year has moved to a cashless organisation, which risks leaving behind those on low income or the elderly. And indeed, we've heard today of the risk of moving to digital devices for our economic liberty, as mobile phones could be lost or stolen or other. So what is the Prime Minister doing to ensure that nobody is left behind in a cashless society?
Well, it is really important that nobody is left behind in a cashless society. The vast majority are moving online, but we need to remember that some don't want to or can't, and we have to make sure there's provision in place for them as well, and I'm grateful to him for raising that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government has shown that it takes seriously the issues of justice and violence against women and girls. In my constituency, I have been made aware of a case where 2 children of a convicted paedophile have been trying to change their surname but can't because both parents have to agree. They are caught in a trap not of their own making. Will my right honourable friend agree to meet with me and or the relevant minister to hear how the legal system is denying justice to these children and what we can do about it? Thank you.
Can I thank him for raising this? And it is shocking and horrifying to hear what these children have to go through. I'm absolutely clear in my mind that should not be happening. And I can inform you, I've instructed the Justice Ministers to look at what they can do. They are going to review the payments and see what else they can do. And so I'm really pleased he's raised this, so we can now act on it, and I'll make sure that he gets the meeting that he's asking for.
Ian Duncan Smith.
Mr. Speaker, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps are responsible worldwide and here in the United Kingdom for the rise of anti-Semitism, inciting extreme Islam attacks, and at the same time attacking dissident Iranians and British citizens, as well as fomenting all sorts of hate marches. A very simple question. We are now at war with Iran, whether we like it or not. But the reality for us, therefore, is that we have never dealt with this organisation. And I simply ask the Prime Minister, doesn't matter, it's not party political, I simply ask him, can he make the decision now that they will proscribe this brutal bunch of thugs and send them packing or arrest them and put them in jail now, right now, get rid of this organisation?
I thank him for raising this. It is really important and serious. He knows that we've sanctioned the IRGC in its entirety, and we've posed over 230 sanctions since coming into office. The existing prescription powers are not designed for a state organisation, but we do keep this under review, as did the last government.
Sarah Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the 16th of July 2005, Private Leon Spicer and Private Philip Hewitt, both from Tamworth, and Second Lieutenant Richard Shearer from Nuneaton, were tragically killed in Iraq. More than 20 years on, our communities continue to remember their service and reflect on the ultimate sacrifice that they made. The Staffordshire 3 group, chaired by Anthony Firth, has worked tirelessly to fundraise for a memorial, which is due to be unveiled next month, and to which the Prime Minister is, of course, warmly invited. Will the Prime Minister join me in paying tribute to these 3 brave men and in commending the Staffordshire 3 group for their dedication in ensuring that their legacy is never forgotten?
Well, can I thank my honourable friend for the invitation? And can I join her in paying tribute to Private Leon Spencer, Private Philip Hewitt, and Second Lieutenant Richard Shearer? Their bravery and sacrifice in defence of our values will never be forgotten, and I'm delighted to hear a memorial will be unveiled. Can I also pay tribute to all those serving today in the Middle East, shooting down threats from our allies and protecting our people?
Iqbal Mohammed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I also associate myself with the Prime Minister's remark about the attack on the Jewish community in Golders Green. There is no place for hatred, anti-Semitism or violence of any kind against individuals. Mr. Speaker, an independent panel of senior judges found no basis for misconduct proceedings against the British Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Karim Khan, King's Counsel.
Yet reports suggest that elements within the court's governing body are seeking to disregard those findings, while ICC officials continue to face external pressure and sanctions. Therefore, given the UK's commitment to the rule of law and as a human rights lawyer himself, what steps will the Prime Minister set out to defend the independence of the ICC and to support British nationals carrying out international judicial roles?
Prime Minister.
I'm not going to comment on the internal proceedings of the court. As he knows, we support the court. We are party to the treaty and there are legal obligations that flow from that.
It's in order for David Burton-Sampson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In my constituency of Southend Western Lee, we have a cohesive and diverse community with a significant Jewish population and a thriving Muslim community and many others from various different backgrounds, all living together and supporting each other. I was therefore appalled to learn of the arson attack against the Jewish community in Golders Green this week, and I'm deeply concerned at the Shadow Justice Secretary's outrageous comments last week about the community iftar in Trafalgar Square, seemingly supported by the leader of the opposition. Can the Prime Minister assure me and my worried constituents that he and his government will do all they can to stamp out hate and hate speech in our communities?
Can I say again what a shocking anti-Semitic attack it was in Golders Green and be absolutely clear that an attack on British Jews is an attack on all of us. And Mr. Speaker, on Monday morning I met Jewish community leaders to talk through what we could do on ambulances, on security and on the social cohesion plan. Can I also say this? I was really struck by the fact that the Jewish community came out last week against the comments of the Shadow Justice Secretary, standing in solidarity with Muslims who wanted to pray in Trafalgar Square. And equally, on Monday at the Eid event we had, Muslims stood in solidarity with our Jewish community. That is Britain, contrary to what the Shadow Justice Secretary said last week, supported by the leader of the opposition. That is how far they've fallen.
Mr. Speaker, Thames Water is lurching from crisis to crisis. Last year it was let off record fines for pumping sewage into our rivers by Ofwat. It is allowed to do so under rules that are laid out in the Water Act of 1991. Will he consider scrapping those rules to stop Ofwat letting water companies off the hook?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank him for raising this? And it is deeply concerning, and we're looking at what more we can do because it's been too much of too concern for too long, and so we need to act.
Red Thomas.
Mr. Speaker, as the COVID inquiry graphically laid bare last week, the NHS was starved of the investment it needed under the party opposite. Nowhere more so than at Northwick Park Hospital, whose brave and extraordinary staff worked round the clock during COVID, looking after many of my constituents. Given the very welcome substantial investment that the government has committed to improve the NHS, will my right honourable friend encourage the Health Secretary to support plans for a new intensive care unit at Northwick Park?
Prime Minister.
The COVID report is a stark reminder, Mr. Speaker, of the extraordinary efforts of health workers to keep this country safe. We are delivering record investment and reform that our NHS needs, and whilst decisions about local infrastructure are made by integrated care boards, I'll make sure that he gets a meeting with the Minister to discuss his particular care. Today, Mr. Speaker, NHS satisfaction rates have risen for the first time since the pandemic. That is the difference that a Labour government is making.
Neil Shrewsbury-Hurst's final question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On the 21st of November of last year, Robert Clancy, a hugely valued and much loved member of my staff, took his own life. He was 29. While successive governments have done a great deal to deal with the scourge of suicide in this country, there is much more that can be done. Will the Prime Minister personally commit to meet with me to discuss how we can prevent others experiencing the unimaginable pain that Rob's family and friends have endured?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank him for raising the case of Robert Clancy? We are happy to work across the House on all that we can do in relation to suicide. I'm pleased that we've been able to put in place a strategy. That is the action of this government, but it needs to be the action of all of us. And I'll make sure he gets the meeting that he is asking for, and thank him again for raising this case. It's really important that he does so.
Please, Prime Minister's questions.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
I can hear you, don't worry. Unfortunately. Just let everybody's walking in front of you. It doesn't do you any benefit or me. Sir Edmund Lee, point of order.
Can I refer you to paragraph 22.9 of Erskine May, which stresses the primary importance of ministerial responsibility. Now, we've got to admit that Prime Ministers have always tried to dodge questions at Prime Minister's question time, and you're not responsible for the answers they give. But what we have seen in recent weeks is not just dodging questions, but every question asked to the Prime Minister, he refers to the Leader of the Opposition's policies. This is not Leader of the Opposition policies, it's Prime Minister's. And the whole